The Council will now consider draft proposal L13 entitled Situation of Human Rights in Burundi. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Denmark on behalf of the EU to introduce the draft text.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the European Union, I have the honor to present draft resolution L13 entitled Situation of Human Rights in Burundi. We thank all co-sponsors, delegations and civil society for their constructive engagement throughout the negotiations. The Special Rapporteur informed this Council about the worrying situation of human rights in Burundi, where violations and abuses still take place. Arbitrary arrests and detention, enforced disappearances, including of political opponents, alleged acts of torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatment or punishment, as well as severe restrictions to the rights to freedom of expression, of peaceful assembly and of association. Adding to this, a group of 8 special procedures expressed their deep concern about the increase in serious human rights violations in Burundi, particularly in the context of the electoral period which started this year and will culminate with the presidential elections in 2027. The text before you reflects these concerns, but let me underline that this balanced draft resolution gives credit to Burundi for its efforts to advance human rights where those are documented. In that respect, the resolution welcomes the submission of Burundi's report to the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, as well as progress made with regard to regional and international participation. Another important element of this text is the structural challenges Burundi faces in relation to the respect, protection and fulfillment of economic, social and cultural rights, particularly the rights to education, to health and to adequate food. In that regard, the EU reiterates its engagement to support sustainable development in Burundi. Unfortunately, Burundi persists in refusing to engage with the Special Rapporteur and other mechanisms such as the ICC. We also lament the lack of meaningful cooperation with the OHCHR, and the EU therefore encourages Burundi to grant access to the country to the Special Rapporteur and consider reopening the OHCHR local office. Mr. President, in these circumstances, we call on this Council to renew the mandate of the Special Rapporteur for another year. This will ensure continued and independent monitoring of the human rights situation in Burundi. The European Union will continue to keep an open door for a constructive dialogue with Burundi in order to find a consensual way out. For these reasons, we call upon all members of this Council to adopt this resolution. I thank you.
Thank you. I have been informed by the Secretariat that there are 3 additional co-sponsors, and I give the floor now to members of the Council who wish to make general comments. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Albania.
Thank you, Mr. President. Albania thanks to the European Union for presenting Resolution L13. As the Special Rapporteur on Burundi highlighted last month, the situation of human rights has unfortunately not improved and remains alarming. We appreciate that the resolution presented by the European Union remains balanced and keeps a rather neutral tone, while drawing from the latest reports and communique from the UN Special Procedure to update the text. We welcome the fact that the 2025 elections were largely peaceful, but we also echo the concern of special procedures and this resolution about the condition in which these were held, with reports of forced registration of voters, forced collective payment of funds, threats for those who refused a closure of the civic space, and arbitrary arrest of journalists. The protection for human rights defenders, activists, civil society and journalists, all of whom are subject to growing human rights violations, is an important aspect of free and fair elections. We also support the fact that the resolution gives more space to the issue of economic, social and cultural rights, something that is particularly relevant in the case of Burundi. Finally, we support the adoption of this important resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Iceland.
Mr. President, Iceland thanks the European Union and its member states for presenting this resolution. The Special Rapporteur produces valuable reporting and we support the renewal of the mandate, especially given the context where serious human rights violations and abuses continue to persist in Burundi. Iceland echoes the recent call from the group of the 8 special procedure mandate holders to ensure that victims of torture and women and girls who are survivors of sexual and gender-based violence have access to appropriate care, including free comprehensive sexual and reproductive health services and psychological support. We remain deeply concerned about the SR's findings that women continue to face structural discrimination in access to land, employment and justice, and that gender-based violence, including domestic violence, occurs frequently and is underreported. Iceland appreciates that the text of the resolution refers to the electoral period that runs until 2027, particularly in a context where the civic space continues to shrink, journalists cannot do their work in full independence, human rights defenders are silenced, and any dissonant voice is squashed. We remain concerned about the continued denial of access of the Special Rapporteur to the country and lack of meaningful cooperation of the country concerned with the OHCHR. Iceland therefore supports Resolution L13 and calls on the rest of the Council to do the same. I thank you.
Thank you. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of North Macedonia.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank the European Union for presenting Resolution L13. We reiterate our support for the mandate of the Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Burundi. 4 years ago, the Human Rights Council decided to end the mandate of the Commission of Inquiry, which was set up to investigate the extremely grave human rights violations and abuses committed during the 2015 Burundian crisis. At the time, despite some positive signals, the situation was still deeply concerning, leading to the creation of the mandate of the Special Rapporteur. Today, unfortunately, those deep concerns remain, while many of the recommendations expressed by the Commission of Inquiry and the Special Rapporteur over the years remain unanswered. The latter makes the need for independent monitoring of the situation of human rights in Burundi even more relevant. We welcome the inclusion in the text of a reference to the rights of children. As the latest report of the Special Rapporteur underlines, the situation of children in Burundi remains troubling, and it's characterized by structural challenges and recurring humanitarian crises that affect them disproportionately. We also appreciate the focus of the resolution on the electoral context, as well as the situation of the civic space and human rights defenders, whose safety should be guaranteed. Mr. President, we support the adoption of this important resolution, and we call Council members to do the same. I thank you.
Thank you. We will now hear from the country concerned. I give the floor to the distinguished representative of Burundi.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. L'an dernier, l'Union européenne, initiatrice de ce mécanisme hostile à mon pays, a convaincu les membres de ce Conseil sur l'exigence de proroger d'une année le mandat du rapporteur spécial sur la situation des droits de l'homme au Burundi. En effet, selon leurs propos, les conditions propices aux violations des droits de l'homme étaient, semble-t-il, réunies, nécessitant d'enclencher une procédure précoce de surveillance de mon pays durant la période électorale de 2025. Et pourtant, le Burundi vient de conclure avec succès les élections législatives et locales qui ont connu une forte affluence de la population dans un climat sécurisé et apaisé, tel que reconnu par tous les observateurs internationaux qui ont répondu à l'appel sans restriction du gouvernement d'assister au processus électoral. Il est dès lors aberrant, sinon insensé, d'entendre le porte-plume du projet de résolution concerné, à défaut de reconnaître avoir servi à ce Conseil des informations volontairement tronquées, s'enliser davantage, car sans renoncer, alors que reconnaissant des élections tenues sans violence, tente encore de convaincre que mon pays reste à observer de près jusqu'aux élections présidentielles de 2027. Cet argument simpliste démontre à suffisance que l'énoncé et l'esprit de la résolution qui institue ce Conseil est délibérément piétiné, uniquement dans l'intention de maintenir la pression sur le Burundi, un agenda initié depuis 2015, au lendemain de l'échec de renverser par la force les institutions républicaines de mon pays. Ce mandat est devenu un outil de division, de catégorisation de nos communautés, véhiculant des propos discriminatoires, des allégations aussi bien diffamatoires que dangereuses et irresponsables à relents ethniques, qui remettent en cause sérieusement la mission de ce Conseil. Ce mandat est aujourd'hui un outil de propagande qui encense d'un côté une opposition de non, au détriment de la voix du peuple, et de l'autre déshumanise toute une jeunesse et conteste la légitimité de nos institutions. Ce mandat est loin d'être au service de promouvoir et de défendre les droits de l'homme tels que supposés, car oppose une ethnie à une autre, dans l'intention avérée de susciter méfiance et suspicion entre les communautés, dans un contexte d'un peuple qui se reconstruit et revient aux fondamentaux de ses valeurs ancestrales, honnies par l'ancien colon envahisseur, qui auparavant nous a mesuré les crânes et les nez, distillant une idéologie de suprémacisme ethnique à cet égard. Ce mandat pays semble en être le prolongement, suivant le même schéma, selon la maxime de diviser pour mieux régner à l'ère moderne. Une seule conclusion s'impose à ce Conseil. Nous nous trouvons face à un mécanisme sans repère institutionnel, sérieusement compromis et qui entache la crédibilité de ce Conseil. Mon pays ne peut tolérer aucun discours ethnique utilisé comme instrument politique dans ces enseignes des Nations Unies et à cet égard s'oppose au renouvellement du mandat du rapporteur spécial et demande un vote à ce sujet. Je vous remercie.
Thank you. I have been informed by the Secretariat that there are PBIs for this draft proposal. The PBI amounts to a total of $535,900. This amount has already been included under the program budget for the relevant years. I now give the floor to members of the Council who wish to make explanations of votes before the vote on the draft proposal. I don't see any request for the floor. At the request of the delegation of Burundi, the Council will now proceed to a recorded vote on draft proposal L13. I ask the Secretariat to open the voting machine and request all delegations to register their vote. I also request all delegations to check whether their vote is accurately reflected on the screen. If so, I ask the Secretariat to close the voting machine. The voting is now closed. The result of the recorded votes are as follows: 23 in favor, 9 against, 15 abstentions. Draft proposal L13 is therefore adopted. Copies of the results of the votes will shortly be uploaded on Extranet.